But wait, there's more. For everyone who signs up for the California Grid Down Survival course, we will bring them into the Civilian Protector Project. So you'll get access to the Civilian Protector Project via the Protector Nation. That is a library at this present time of over 70 hours of personal protection and emergency management, disaster preparedness content. That is a library taught by over 24 of the world's most elite instructors on various different subject matters. Everything from situational awareness to unboxing your first firearm, to dry firing at home, to blade work, to medical. It's all in the Civilian Protector Project, and I'm so excited and honored to bring you guys in, everyone who joins the California Grid Down Survival Training course. So look forward to that. And by the way, I'm going to continue building that library. This is only just the beginning. So with your sign up, with what you're paying for the California Grid Down Survival course, you will also get access to the Civilian Protector Project. I look forward to seeing you guys inside the Civilian Protector Project social media platform here shortly, and training with you for this upcoming California Grid Down Survival course. Let's go. Boom.
Boom. What's going down, you guys? ByronRodgers here, another episode here. This is going on both platforms because we have the infamous Tony Blauer, living legend, in the house. How you doing, sir?
Good, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm excited for this episode. You were talking about some concepts that I had not heard before. And then as you began to expound on them, I mean, it all became very clear as things that I find that non-combatants seriously struggle with. And then even people that have some training also struggle with, which is why they kind of got to keep training. And so I know and I know how deep you go, and I know how schoolboy you get, and I know how you're actually, doing this stuff in the gym with guys. So I'm just excited to bring massive amounts of value, to the game with this episode, man.
Yeah, I dig it. I'm always grateful to talk to you. You're a great interviewer, and what you do is so important. And the world is freaking nuts right now.
Yeah.
And so I can only imagine the other part of your business besides being a influencer online, right? That the whole security side, and there's a danger as that industry explodes.
Yeah,
people are rushing to get diplomas or get qualifications, and what ends up happening, of course, it's like me rushing to put you into a UFC fight. And a buddy of mine, I don't know if you knew or remember the name, Marco Lala, old school Kyokushinkai fighter from New York. We've been friends for decades, and he was one of the OG guys who started like with video instruction. Yeah. And Marco had this quote. He says, "You can't fake endurance," and I always quote him on that, because it's like, there's a lot of things that you can fake, but you can't fake endurance. You got to build that. So you can. So I added a little poetic license to that. I'd also add, you can't fake experience. You can't fake wisdom. Like, there are things you have to go through, and I often talk about, the difference between realizing something and a realization. Okay. What's the difference between realizing something and a realization? Well, you realize things over time. I realize I should have continued with my mobility. I realize I should have continued with my my counting count. Well, the realization thing is, it just takes time, but a realization can be instantaneous. My realization was I didn't have enough ammo, right? Like, it's like, suddenly it's like, whoa. A realization was, if we're talking to your audience, I got my qualifications and stuff like this, but when this fight kicked off, I didn't have the stamina and endurance to evac, to charge this.
I should have done more planning. That's one that a lot of guys have. I should have had a secondary or tertiary route figured out. I should have known something better. I should have,
Yeah. So I mean, me, man, I'm 64.
Wow.
I've been in this game. I've been teaching since 1977.
Let's go.
And it's crazy. So I tend to, And it's funny because my business is growing in a different way, where I'm getting a much more mature audience, or people who've gone through and they go, you know what? It's not about how fast you can kick or punch or draw or shoot or block or drive. It's all about what I refer to as mind speed. And violence loves speed. And the only way you can compete with the speed of violence is if you can think fast. And you can't think fast if you haven't prepared properly. And you can't prepare properly if you don't do scenario training. And you can't do scenario training if you're focusing on techniques. And I always, you've heard me say this before on the many talks we've had. Don't confuse.
Hold on. Can we just start that again? That whole chain of realizations. It's so sweet, man. I'm tracking, but I just want to make sure they get the message. You know what I'm saying? Like, violence likes speed.
Yeah, violence loves speed. And it's a powerful line.
Yeah.
Because like when it happens, it just happens fast. I mean, I was doing I teach online every week, twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't mention the units they're from, but I've got public safety, first responders, tier 1 units, retired guys, martial artists, people who know nothing. It's a Zoom class. You go, you can't learn self-defense on Zoom. If you think you can't learn self-defense on Zoom, you either have a shitty coach or you're not coachable. You have 100%. A shitty coach or you're not coachable.
Yeah.
But it also depends on what you're doing. If we're sparring,
that's different.
Right. It's different. Hey, let's go and get out of this headlock. Like, you can't do it. But there's so much more to human performance that doesn't require you to be on a mat. And it's actually more important because the mind navigates the body. So if the metaphoric stovepipe in your operating system, right, you can be ready to go. Got my prop here. You can be ready to go, and you're looking for your gun. Your gun should be way closer than that.
No, my gun's right here, but my dry fire gun's usually right here.
But I can tell somebody, hey, you can understand the rules of engagement. You can have the weapon system, and then you don't know how to clear a jam. It doesn't matter if you're willing, able. Like, the operating system is malfunctioning. Mm-hmm. Well, in the human, the operating system that malfunctioned is the fear loop, because the fear loop is the part of the brain that you need to clear, like a stovepipe is a metaphor. I need to clear my fear to engage the threat, to discern the optimal strategy or tactic to solve this problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all mind speed. That's not, I work with so many different tactical athletes, mm-hmm. and a lot of them are, hey, is this fast? Is this good? And I'm going, like, it doesn't matter how fast you go. It only matters how fast you recognize there's a problem.
Right.
Convert. And I asked, there was a couple of people on my last call this week, mm-hmm. that I knew had introduced lead poisoning to bad guys. Right. Yeah. And so these guys have done like all the tier 1. Mm-hmm. And I said to them, without disclosing, because we're on a Zoom call, mm-hmm. how many of you in a holy shit confrontation, and I define a holy shit confrontation as sudden violence. Sudden violence. And I said, what's the difference between, because when you ask somebody who's really experienced, do you have fear? How do you manage fear? They look at you like you're crazy because they don't remember that all the training they did, all the stress inoculation they did, all the scenarios they did, all the background they did. Mm-hmm. So this message is for a lot of the new people listening to you, but it's also for the old timers too. Okay. So these 3 individuals who I knew had been in gunfights and survived them, and their opponents didn't. I said, did you guys in the sudden violence encounters say anything remotely like, holy shit, what the fuck? Whoa, look out. Oh, fuck. Right?
Of course.
That's the fear, but nobody talks about that.
Right.
So you're on the range, it's beep, 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 hold on, I wasn't ready. Beep, beep. You're not gonna get mulligans in a gunfight. Like, I wasn't ready.
Right.
And my whole passion now is teaching people about the neuroscience of fear as it connects to neurobiology, because that's what inspires or deploys a startle response. So if I've got my gun trained on you, and all of a sudden you come at me, with a machete, or somebody moves out of the crowd, and I flinch a little bit, that headshot just hit you in the ear, right? That micro flinch. You know what happens if you squeeze a trigger. And so my whole thing is teaching people, you need to study fear management and the refractory delay that it creates. That's a fancy word for the gap time between stimulus response. Because when we train defensive tactics and combatives, we train it to execute the complex motor skill. No, do it like this. No, do it like this. No, do it like this. Whatever it is. And our focus is standing in front of a mirror, or doing it with a partner, or doing it with. But real violence never looks like that, and it never erupts like that. Mm-hmm. And to go off like down another, you know me, I'm legendary for the tangents, a rabbit hole.
Oh, we're right.
I used to bring, everyone on this call should know what a jack-in-the-box is. I used to bring them, I used to use this metaphor, and I would bring these jack-in-the-boxes to courses back in the day, but they were so cheap and they break all the time that after my third or fourth one, I said, fuck it, I'll just tell the story. But I used to say in class, and I go, okay, who's the fastest tactical athlete in the room? And they're always, if I was working with a unit or a SWAT team or whatever, there was always somebody they pointed at.
Everyone would be like, yo, Jeff,
right?
Jeff. Yeah.
Right. And I go, come up here. So he'd walk up like, what the fuck did I just get myself into? Mm-hmm. And then I pull out a jack-in-the-box. And I go, the jack-in-the-box is the situational awareness in your world. The jack-in-the-box is the clown you're looking out for. Right? Hey, everyone's wearing tank tops. It's 80 degrees. Here's a guy in a trench coat with a fucking hoodie on. Is he just into goth music, or is there something wrong here? Are we about to get in a gunfight? Right. So the anomaly, we're looking for pre-contact indicators. I go, here you have it. Here's your pre-contact indicator. Yeah. It's the fucking jack-in-the-box. It's a clown.
I love this.
And you might have to fight this clown, right? Can you feel this?
Yeah,
so I there, and I put the clown on the desk, and I said, you ever see the Three Stooges? He goes, yeah. I go, remember the fucking, poke the eye, and then one of the Stooges would go, and I go, your job is to finger jab the clown when he pops out. And he goes, okay. And I said, now, this is the pre-contact indicator, right? This is the clown, meaning situational awareness. We got radar lock. That's the guy.
No, this is my guy. I've identified the anomaly.
I move up to him. Now,
in positioning.
Right. As a protector, you might be standing like this, like right. watch. But you're not going to get to go like this.
And then wait until,
listen, man, if you move, I'm fucking finger jabbing you, right? right. So I go, I've set you up for tactical success. You're going to be this close to the jack-in-the-box, and you're going to finger jab that fucking clown. Got it? He's like, got it. And then I go, and there's music before, right? Do you know the jack-in-the-box music? Do you remember it?
I mean, I don't remember it.
Right? Let's do it. Right? So I'm here like this, and the whole class is watching.
Yeah.
You can see how dramatic I made it, right? And we're here like this, Byron, and the guy's like this. I go, you ready? I go, okay. Your job is to finger jab this clown before he pops, right? And I go, and I don't know when it's going to go, right? But you hear the thing turning, cranking, and all of a sudden we're here like this, and all of a sudden, pop, that lid comes up and the clown pops up, and nobody can finger jab the clown before his head does this, right? A couple of times,
right? Because
it's an ambush,
right?
That you're waiting for, and you still couldn't intercept it. Mm-hmm. And so the metaphor here is this: like every victim of violence who lived to tell the tale said they had a bad feeling before the attack. So what we have is, hey, I got a bad feeling about that guy. Let's go check this out. And then, hey, buddy, can I see your paperwork, or where's your press pass, or whatever the hell you're doing to vet the guy? And next thing, the guy goes, whap, and he's on them. There's no way in that moment, and the jack-in-the-box demos to show that if we can't manage the fear spike, that the neurobiological response to sudden danger is a startle response with the hands coming up to protect your head unless your hands are occupied with a phone, a flashlight, a weapon, a clipboard. So if you're holding on stuff, the cross extensor locks down around that. But if your hands were free, they'd come up. And it's been my mission, you know this, is to inject this into executive protection work, law enforcement, military, because when somebody surprises you, that represents the most dangerous moment for you during that mission.
Right.
No, like, and I always say all fights are dangerous, but the most dangerous fight is the ambush because it impacts you at a neurobiological level. So you bypass cognition, you lose executive function for nano moments while you're going, oh shit. And that's why I ask these guys who've been in gunfights, I go, and what's the difference between being a sniper, being ready, or tracking somebody and someone else's point going, do not move, and somebody's ready, and you've got your rules of engagement? I go, like, you can't look at those events in the same way as sudden violence. And that's a big mistake people make, is they go, let's listen to this guy. You know, he's been in 6 gunfights, and he's a sniper who's 100 yards away from the threat,
Right.
which is very different than, you're sitting in your car and somebody comes up to your window and puts a gun in your face or punches you.
Right.
So go ahead. Look like you're going to say something.
No, I'm just in my head digesting everything. I think what you're giving, like what you're dispensing, is super, super valuable insight, that I think a lot of people overlook and don't quite understand. Some of the things that I see when I, as when I do my tactical protection reviews, I see hundreds of videos of real world violence, like all the time.
Right.
And this is exactly, and I've actually got some videos we can go over, not the ones you asked for because it's taking too long to find them, but some
Right.
OG ones that you're going to just devour. And with what you're talking about, gosh, there's a great one we'll get into in a minute. But this is one of the massive differences I've seen in people that are living, people that are combatants, like a gangster that's acquainted with violence, understands violence, inoculated to violence, versus when he attacks a civilian who has this whole, not just the fear spike, what you're talking about, like the time it takes for the information to be converted into action. But you see these massive gaps in people that aren't ready, that are being ambushed, and especially with people who are unacquainted with these types of things, And so like, I've kind of looked at what you're describing, but you're describing it at a much deeper level, much more technically, as kind of like the holy grail of violence and winning a decisive engagement, which is how quickly you can get back into violence and begin dispensing destruction on that other individual. So it's just, I'm loving, like, just what you're talking about right now is like, I don't want to say the secret, but it is kind of like, when these things happen, that person's going to bring that level of violence, and that response time very often dictates the outcome of the entire thing in seconds.
You're 100% right, bro. And there's a video that I dissected for Caliber Press when they first launched. They did their very first podcast with me. I don't know if they're still running it, but their very first one was with me. And we had, I feel like I discussed this with you once before, but maybe not. It was a video where 3 Israeli soldiers in a marketplace in Israel went up to approach a guy who was, they wanted to see his papers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for a prop here.
That's how it starts.
Yeah. And so they were fully kitted up. They were like full on long guns,
plates,
armor, helmets, everything. They were like, it looked like they were
on the head.
And so the 3 of them have triangulated around the guy. They walk up to them, the guy's seated and they're talking, and you can see they're asking him, and he stands up, right? And he stands up to get his papers. So he goes like this, right? And so they're all looking down, and he goes, yeah, I got my papers here. And he starts to pull his papers out. And as he pulls his papers out, he goes like this and slashes the first guy in the neck. Well, the first soldier, this guy gets slashed. What does he do? He goes like this. He flinches. The guy immediately immediately that guy flinches back and he slashes back across the other guy, and they're all like indexing their long guns.
Yeah.
So it's flinch. The other guy flinches, the hands come up. He lunges at the third guy. That guy flinches. Meanwhile, I think it was 3 or 4 other soldiers who are, you couldn't even see them on the CCTV camera, see what's happening, and they come running over and light this guy up.
Yep. Mind speed, man. This dude was multiple moves ahead. But anyway, go ahead.
But here's the bigger point for everyone really listening. You're an Israeli soldier,
mm-hmm.
and you've got a suspected terrorist.
Mm-hmm.
Their primary weapons, other than the explosive and stuff, is going to be a knife,
right?
And you go over and you're around him, like you've got the most pure form of Krav Maga. You've got your primary weapon. I consider the human weapon system the primary weapon, but you've been taught your long gun's your primary, your pistol's your secondary. So you're not taught you are the weapon, right? And my question on that podcast, and my question to everybody here, and it's just a hypothesis, is like, why didn't they just do a knife disarm? Why didn't they just shoot a guy? Because if you say to somebody, we'd rather have an M4 and a staccato or a knife. Well, duh, don't bring a knife to a gunfight, dude. But over and over again, what we see is the startle response, which deploys like a biological airbag. It overrides cognition. Mm-hmm. And so if I said to you, Byron, a guy pulls a knife and he goes to stab you, you're going to say, well, I learned this in the Marine Corps, and I learned this from Tom, and I learned this from Tim, and I learned this from, and all of those things are good, except for, let's go full circle. I'm going
to deploy the best martial art in the world. Good to go. Faster than you, foo. Guy pulls a knife. I'm breaking contact. I'm getting some space.
but guess what? The fastest thing you can do is the startle response, and there's actual science on that, like ridiculous science of the speed of the startle response. And what happens is this, and this is what I think everyone in EP needs to know. Everyone in martial arts needs to know. Every public safety, military is. If like I can prove with a jack in the box exercise that action's faster than reaction, and always in sudden violence, and this is key. This is math, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
When sudden violence, it's the enemy is creating the sudden violence.
Right.
Right. So we need to recalibrate our brain to that. Even if I say this is going to kick off, get ready. And now your brain's going, okay, fuck, I'm ready. But you're still waiting for them to move first. What confuses people is a lot of times we practice and finesse the counter ambush, but there's no surprise when you're practicing counter ambush because it's a intellectual drill you're doing on purpose.
Right.
So the unintended consequence is we get sucked into thinking that we will be way more technical than we actually are. And that's where our training comes in, where we say, listen, that's great that you developed that, but we need to improve the mind speed going from holy shit and oh fuck to fuck you and move through that. So the goal is that, and that's all mind speed. It has nothing to do with your fast twitch muscle fibers. It has nothing to do with like you going, look how fast I draw, look how fast I punch, look how fast I block. Because that's all coordinated and cooperative drilling. There's value in it, but it's not.
It's a different.
It's a different thing.
So, it's really interesting. And not to say I wouldn't jump. I have noticed that in situations where things happen suddenly, I do have a tendency actually not to freeze, but to go into a little bit of a different state of focus and action than a lot of people around me. And some guys like, if someone sneaks up on me, I my wife likes to play these games sometimes, and different things have happened. I have noticed that I don't have a tendency to jump. I actually am ready, very much more ready to strike. So I wonder if that has to do with getting blown up multiple times or anything like that.
For sure. But let me say something really metaphysical, which your audience probably is going, "Oh God, this guy with his big words."
Yo, man, this has been awesome. Just the beginning of this conversation. There's so much value. Y'all need to play the tape back in slow motion. Anyways, go ahead.
Like when Will Smith smacked Chris Rock.
Right.
I did. It's one of my most read articles on Substack. We got to send the link out.
Let's go.
And what I talked about, it's a really long article explaining the science and psychology of fear and inner circles. For example, my Amazon delivery guy visits my house way too often with boxes for my wife. My Amazon guy could kill me every day of the week. What do I mean by that, everybody listening? I see him. He goes, brings the doorbell. I just open it. It's Amazon. He goes, I got to sign this. Anything for me? And he could stab me, punch me. He could smack me like Will Smith did.
Yeah. I love this.
Now, a stranger rings my doorbell and I'm like in the peephole or the Ring camera or my security system. Yeah. And I'm going, and I say, what the fuck do you want? I don't say it like that, but I'm like, yeah, can I help you? Whatever. And, you know, I've got 4 big dogs and they're going crazy. And I open the door a little bit. I go, hang on, I don't want you to get mauled. And I scare the guy and he steps back. But the difference is this. And I'm talking about like your wife and friends and colleagues, like, you know, going to goose you or touch you. And you're like, man, we know they're already in our inner circle. So our nervous system isn't tracking energetically. Remember this. This is an actual factual statement. Every victim of violence that I've interviewed over the decades, every book that I've read where they're doing deep interviews with victims of violence, there is a passage where somebody says to the effect, I had a feeling. I knew something was wrong. Gavin DeBecker talks about it. Every book, every good interviewer extracts that. Yeah. So I always tell people like, hey, when you teach situational awareness to your students, do you talk about energetic intuition? I define intuition, Byron, as something you know to be true. You just don't have the proof yet.
Rest of the information yet. Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of us dismiss it. We're rushing, we're stubborn, we think someone else is covering it. So we have a model. We have a model in our program called the Choose Safety model. And the Choose Safety model says this, that if I've got an intuition and I don't have evidence or facts to prove it was right? Like we were all conspiracy theorists 3-4 years ago, and like 61-0 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you know.
Right. So, but it was an intuition. You look at that, you go, this is fucked up.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I can't put my face. Are you sure about that? Are you sure?
So the Choose Safety model says, what is the safest thing you can do now, leaning into your intuition?
Right.
And so I think I'm being followed, but you know what? I live in a nice area and, you know, the neighbors' lights are on and that wouldn't happen here. And I don't need to lock my doors and all that. And next thing I know, home invasion or robbed or whatever, or attacked or whatever. Oh shit, I can't believe that happened to me.
Right.
And so the model's this. If you get a fear spike about something, you need to clear the fear. You clear the fear by addressing it, by applying. And I love to come up with like simple, almost Ernie and Bert Sesame Street simple labels.
Right.
Choose safety. What does choose safety mean? It does not mean play it safe. It means choose safety. And I tell people this, it's a provocative line. Sometimes the safest thing to do is to fight to the death.
Yeah, 100%.
Because when you think of choose safety, you think of barricade, avoidance, run.
Yeah, don't get on the elevator, whatever.
You don't think about charging the threat. So if you're in an active shooter situation and this guy's just opening up and you're not armed and you're near the threat, the safest thing you could do is charge the threat right now. That's so like, and I deliberately remember realization and realizing.
Yeah.
The realization is, holy shit, Blauer tricked us. Choose safety could mean fight to the death.
Right. I love it.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get people to think out of the box, man.
100%. And the energetic realities that we face, like energy, like that sensing is another language. And I think you would just have to be just, I don't know, like you just, if you're on the planet for any period of time, you've had many experiences where you've met someone, you met your daughter's boyfriend, you did a business deal.
You had a bad feeling, you had a good feeling.
I can't quite, and then it happened, so this is a whole nother language that people that are sensitive and that you should be sensitive are speaking every single day, all the time. I can remember a number of different situations I was in, both in Iraq, both in my private security experiences, where I was like, hair stand up, and you're like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And it does happen. So.
Well, and here's an important thing. I want to interject this, because a lot of people say to me, but what if you're wrong? What if it's not? Well, you're still safe.
Yeah, choose safety.
Yeah. So choose safety. You find out that, like yesterday, I was teaching, and I had my garage door open, and the wind came up and blew some leaves in a weird way that I'm looking here, that it looked like two people walking up the side of my house. Just a shadow. It's really weird the way. And I'm talking to a group of people here, and my peripheral picks this up, and I found myself like doing this. Going, fuck, cut the pie, like just to see, because I saw the shadows. And I'm thinking about improvised weapon right here on my desk. And then I was like, oh, that's a fucking tree, right? The true safety. So the true safety model is, don't put your blinders on. Like, you hear, it sounds like somebody's breaking into your house. Don't hide under the sheets.
Right.
You got to go clear your house. You got to make sure you're safe. Then you find out that it was the wind and it was a tree banging on something, and now it's a funny story to tell tomorrow. Right. But you always choose safety.
Yep. No, 100%. I love it. That's the way that people need to move. I think there's an emotional intelligence component to it as well, worth mentioning. I want to get into these videos because there are some things that I'll post sometimes, or that I'll talk about, and I posted something the other day about the reality of the 8 terrorists that were captured foiling that terrorist attack, and I had a bunch of people in there being like, fake news, no way. And I'm like, you guys, I'm like, are you kidding me? This is almost an inevitable. What are you talking about? But I think there's an emotional intelligence component, which is, I just can't look at that because I don't have the emotional durability to consider that this is a reality that I'm facing. And so they ostrich it, where I'm like, this is validated. This is going to be all over the news in 10 minutes. And so I feel like I see that a lot in people that are unacquainted with what they would do in a situation. Well, I just think, he seems like a nice guy, is really a protection strategy for, I don't know what the heck I would do. I can't believe I'm being targeted. What would I do if I was being targeted? So I think the work you do and the work I do trying to prepare people psychologically is so important for them to actually be able to turn and be like, okay, this more physically potent human being who's probably been doing dirty deeds for really cheap for the last decade and a half is now tracking me to my car. I'm going to go back in the store and ask the manager for help, or I'm going to dip into Starbucks real quick and call my dad. I'm going to, do things.
It's real simple those of you who listen to Byron, who are in the community, have the training and are getting the experience, or have the experience. Those of you who are listening more, you're exploring this, or you're new to self-defense. It really is just choose safety. And when people like Byron say, hey, head on a swivel, understand transitional, space. We do stupid things on a regular basis. Like I'll go fill up, and I go, there's 3 people whose car I could steal right now. They're on their phone with the door open, with the key, like don't they watch social media? And here's an interesting thing is, like, we're in a, it's an echo chamber, right? You follow me, I follow you. We talk about the same stuff.
The algorithm even makes it an echo chamber. They don't let anyone who doesn't watch, follow us, these guys. Anyways, God bless them.
It's wild. But I wrote an article in 1993 called "The Theory of Presumed Compliance," and that went. The word going viral didn't exist back then, but that went viral. Caliber Press, who's their street survival seminar, they printed it in there, and it was this theory of, and you should read it. We can create the link to it. But if you just Google Tony Blauer "Theory of Presumed Compliance," but it basically said, and it was directed at active duty. It basically said that how you feel affects how you think, and how you think affects how you feel, and both influence how you move. And so what I was trying to get even back in 1993 is this idea that and I broke it down to pre-fight, in-fight, post-fight, right? And D1, D2, D3, detect and avoid, defuse and de-escalate, and then a push comes to shove, defend. Those are what we call the 3Ds. But the in-fight is all the stuff we're talking about, the behavioral science, the psychology, the fear management. Yeah. And like my friend coming back full circle, Marco Lala, when he said you can't fake endurance, you can't develop everything we're talking about unless you actively pursue it. Right. You study. So like every week I make the people that I mentor, we take a video and we run it through. We have a graphic called the timeline of violence, which has true safety model, the 3Ds, the fear management, action versus reaction, pre-con. It's like it's almost like a diagnostic chart. But a lot of the videos that we see, remember the one you just posted a day or two ago, the guy running towards the shotgun and looked like a salon or something?
Yeah.
And I said, like, that guy's got major balls and fear management skills, because it's like, he runs towards that. It looked like he took a blast. You saw him
baby too, man. He ran into a few shots, man.
And he grabbed. So I asked the first group, when we watched it, I stopped it where he had grabbed the shotgun and he was wrestling up against the guy on the wall. And I said, is the guy who charged the threat and grabbed the shotgun trained or untrained? And nobody could tell. What are your thoughts? Was he trained or untrained?
I don't think he had tactical training, but I think maybe there were some situations in his life that prepared him psychologically for that moment.
Yeah, maybe he was a wrestler. He played football. And I agree with you. And here's what I told him. I said, the fact that he didn't try a bullshit or good disarm,
little circle, big circle, kill, like something.
Right?
Yeah.
The fact that he didn't, while he was driving the weapon down, come up and drop an elbow in the guy's head or stick a thumb in his eye. He didn't try to incapacitate the guy. Told me he was untrained. Right. But what he did was something more important. So here's another. I'm using these dates to let everyone know how fucking old I am. 1985 for Inside Karate magazine. I wrote an article.
And I was born.
No way.
Yeah, bro. I'm 85, bro. I'm fresh still. I'm still warming up, man. I'm still just warming up. We're getting ready for the.
You can call me Grandpa Blauer.
This is awesome, man. I get to learn this.
So 1985, Inside Karate magazine. The key highlighted line is this. This was also a stat that I had intuited through reading a bunch of shit. That there are more people who defend themselves every day who are untrained, and they do it through sheer will and indignation, than there ever will be trained people like you or me who get attacked and then effectively defend themselves. Right. What that means is the ability to pick up danger and go, fuck no, I'm not going to be a victim, and fight back is more important than your technical skill, what belt you are.
Yep.
And that guy in that video you showed, he showed courage, he showed will, he showed tenacity. Look how long the second guy, it was like almost 20 seconds before someone came to help him.
Yep.
But here's the bigger point for those of you that are thinking more tactical. Is we look at that video and what you see is a guy come in. I don't remember if you racked it or just came up and shot it and then pumped it. But there was like the refractory delay of stimulus run, boom. And then all of a sudden this guy comes shooting in. His first response wasn't, I'll run towards the gunfire. It was fuck, right?
Yeah.
But then he realized, if not me, then who?
Yep.
And he decided.
The math starts going like, what options do I have? If not me, then who? I've got it.
And he charged the threat. Now, here's where this is how we improve mind speed. And this is probably the most important lesson in today's talk.
Yeah.
You can't look at a video because it's always edited to show you the
sweet spot.
I'm going to change the word. I know what you mean. I dig it. But we're going to show you the most emotional part because we want to peddle fear.
Right. Elicit the emotional response, which is going to get eyeballs.
Yeah. And so now what would be different is if you had a helmet cam from a buddy, it's not edited. You're going to like going, hey, at minute 17, shit kicks off. Right. Yeah. But CNN is showing you your 0 is minute 17. Right. So what the general public, what most people who study violence online see is they see this, right? They don't see that 5 minutes before, and this is the most important thing, the timeline of violence.
Right.
That 15 minutes before that guy came in, had a fight with that guy. I don't know this. I'm making this up. This was part of the conversation I had with our students. 15 minutes early, the guy comes in, he has a fight. It was over the fact that this guy's sleeping with his ex and he's pissed off. And the guy goes, fuck off, she's over you. And he goes, I'm going to come back and kill you. He goes, oh yes, like bring a friend, bring a casket, fuck you. And then the guy comes back 15 minutes later and he sees the guy through the glass walking around and he shits his pants here, realizes there's no exit, and then goes, I'm going to fucking die. All of that is important because it explains why he charged the threat.
Right.
I'm not saying that happened, but the mistake that martial artists make and defensive tactics people make and combatives guys make is they start on what I call D3. They start on how to do a gun disarm. And so the drill starts here. They start on how to get under the headlock. So the drill starts here. They don't build the shit. And that's, if we go back to, sorry how fucking emotional I get at this shit, but I'm trying to save fucking lives here. Those Israeli soldiers, why didn't they use Krav Maga to disarm the guy? That's one of the classic things that you see in every Krav demo is knife and gun disarms. Because they got sucked into a whole D1, D2 phase that they had never practiced. They only practiced D3. So when the guy pulled the knife and went, they were already sucked into the story.
Here, yeah, they're already in reaction.
Yeah. And so we need to understand that. And the only way you can improve, like we go back to, like you said, hey, when shit kicks off, I don't react the same way as other people. Do you think it's because I was blown up because I've been here? That's called stress inoculation. Yeah. Your nervous system goes, and it's like, I remember Tim Kennedy saying once when he got asked if he's afraid when he gets in the octagon, he goes, no, he says, I've had guys try to kill me. So this guy's just trying to knock me out. So it's like, it's a method, right?
Exactly.
You're going, hey, I'm protecting this celebrity. Maybe someone's going to try and an activist is going to try and smack her or throw paint on her, but it's not going to be like an IED going up, going on beside me. And so your brain does this, but there's still stuff to learn with studying this timeline of violence, because it's in those first 2 Ds where we're working the soft skills, the pre-fight skill set that sets you up for success for in-fight and post-fight.
100%. And this is something I've been trying to drive home for years, which is what you're saying is like, it's not so much about your Judy chop. It's not so much about your karate chop, bro. Your ability, the soft skills that you have around recognizing a threat and positioning yourself prior to that threat, and proxemics and behavioral profiling and understanding social cues and the difference between social violence and things, all the pre-threat indicators that lead up to physical violence. Like, this is the Jedi stuff. This is the real magic of being able to massage a situation so it doesn't even become combative. And if it does, you have superior positioning, superior tools, and you're ready, and you don't fight, you end a fight. And the thing is, you can be a mom, 110-pound mom, and navigate life with these soft skills that you're talking about, with great outcomes, and not even be there when things happen. Or you can be a war fighter, but understanding all the soft skills that you're talking about, this is the real magic of personal protection. And to lend also some more to the work that both of us are doing in the digital realm with regards to personal protection. People think they have to go to these cool hands-on classes, which are fun, which are cool, to become a competent protector. And I'm just here to tell you, and I've been trying to tell you, and Tony's telling you, it's not true. You can become a very effective and even more perfective than a guy who's got a hammer looking for a nail, a much more effective protector by understanding the psychology of it and the sociology of it, and training yourself in these things before you have to go to the range all the time. That's a last resort. But if you can understand these things, these soft skill components of being an amazing protector, it's like 80% of it in so many cases, to be completely honest with you. The other stuff, yeah. So, and then real quick, I want to lean into the, and if you guys are enjoying this podcast, Tony's got an event coming up, one that you guys need to hear about. You're going to hear about that towards the end of this thing. And then two, it's as easy as hopping on the online learning platforms that we have available for you guys, right? Tony's doing live coaching like this, which this has been one of the most information-rich podcast episodes we've already had all year, where you can really start to dig into this stuff on a regular basis, multiple times a month. So that's awesome as well. Yeah. And we'll get into that as well.
Yeah, you said something I just want to go back to. You mentioned you just mentioned in your in that rant was the word psychology. Yeah. So our superpower is self-awareness, right? We all know that, self-awareness. So you can have all of the pre-fight skills, certificates. I completed this course. You know what to look for. You do that. Remember, a half hour ago, I asked 3 guys who were on a call with me this week who had been in gunfights, what was their difference in their reaction time and their emotional regulation when they were hunting versus when they were hunted or surprised.
Right.
And even though they had their same weight, same equipment, same skill set, when it's a jack in the box, there's oh fuck, right? Versus he's got to be in this room because we cleared the rest of the house and there's no other rooms. Right. So there's still a adrenaline surge as you go.
Well, you can manage that. That's so much easier.
But that's where your training comes in. So so when you said psychology, what I want everyone to really think about, and it's why I wear this shirt, which is one of our programs called No Fear, spelled K-N-O-W. If you're only listening to this, it's this idea of understanding the neuroscience of fear, the psychology of fear, not the physiology and biology, fight, flight, freeze, toxic immobility or tonic immobility, which is toxic, and amygdala hijack. And people throw around these big words that don't mean shit.
Right.
Because what you need to, when the expression in your fight, your point, you need to manifest courage.
Yeah.
And the primary ingredient of courage is fear. You cannot be brave if you're not afraid.
Absence of fear.
And so getting people to understand that. And so the self-awareness piece, Byron, is you're here, you're alone or you're with a team and you see something and your physiology starts to race. And you go, fuck, why is my heart beating so hard? Okay, I got butterflies in my stomach. Is that real? Should I do? Meanwhile, what's happening is you're having this inner dialogue. That's the self-awareness piece. Yep. So a fear spike always creates doubt. Doubt creates hesitation. We need to stop it there and start deploying our training, because when it slips into the next stage is procrastination.
Yep.
And that's where we get fucked with the violence loves speed. So like right now, you and I are looking at each other. If both of us got attacked simultaneously, both of us would go, fuck. We would start flinch. We would have doubt. Doubt would be like, what the fuck? Hesitation. Holy shit. This is now we're threat discriminating. We're going, and then we would duck and grab and we'd get back in the fight. But we would go through that as human beings, those 2 stages. Procrastination is where we got captured or killed, right? Procrastination is where we go, we didn't know what to do. So it's a fascinating area that it would enhance anybody's survivability to look into that more.
100%. And I think, and I think the Marine Corps did such a good job with the whole principle of default aggressive. like default, like you get ambushed, overwhelming fields of just ridiculously overwhelmingly violent, fight directly into, like, it's very interesting, man, because that has been the thing that has taken, through all the different situations I've been through, a lot of that. And then being able to, if you can control that default aggression, then it really can. And honestly, the other thing too, I don't want to go to another rabbit hole. I want to get to these videos, but another huge component, but it's so good, another huge component is the reality that the default aggression is attacking the attacker is like super valuable to just getting that attacker now dealing to something that they didn't know they were going to have to deal with. And now they've got to choose courage. And now you're flipping the whole scenario on its head. And it's just so much more awesome, right? for survivability. Let's see if I can. All right. So this, I don't know. Have you seen this one?
I don't know yet. Let me see it.
Oh, this is good, man. Let's see here. I'm trying to find a corner of the screen that doesn't get used for this situation, and we can let it play through. I think it's like 22 seconds, and then we can go back slowly, blow by blow, to see what you pull out, what you want to talk about. But I think with mind speed loves violence. This is a good one. All right.
Fucking John Wick.
Yo, he's the Russian John Wick or something, bro. Everyone in the room. So in terms of mind speed and violence loving speed, man, I mean, I feel like I see so much of that. I feel like the psychology of what you're talking about, and there may have been some of that here where my man slams the door. Now he's escalating situation. But you can see my guy in the corner of the screen here, his little hand starts to creep. Yeah. And I don't know if he couldn't see it, if this officer couldn't see it, or if this officer couldn't see it. This guy's starting to react to something. But you see here, right? Jeez. He's still standing here and has not even reacted yet. And maybe that's the procrastination that you're talking about. And then this guy right here, who's 100% certain, starts to get to work.
That's nuts.
It is nuts, man. And I have a few scenarios.
Do you know what the background is? Is this a hit? What the hell was this?
No, it looks like, from what I can kind of remember, these guys bring this guy into custody and they leave a weapon on him. And I'm sure they feel safe and strength in numbers here. But what they aren't really well ready to deal with is the level of violence this guy's going to escalate to in close quarters. And it seems like everyone in this room is behind when it comes to reactionary time, because I think they're dealing with that mental overload of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening, right? And he just finishes the first guy, goes to the second guy, and he's now dealing with, let's see how he reacts. So that's his flinch.
Start a flinch. Yeah. He charges the guy.
He at least tries to charge the guy, yeah. And I think he takes damage on the way in that ends up.
He gets shot right there.
Yeah, rendering him. Yeah, he gets shot there.
And this guy, the killer, it's interesting. It looks like he pistol whips one of the guys that lands on top of him to get off of him, and then shoots the guy again. So let it play. So here, this guy jumps him. So his gun is offline and out of position.
Yeah.
Watch this. I think it looks like he smashes him with a gun. I think he pistol whips him here. It looks like he's maybe shooting there, but it looks like let it go.
Oh.
Like there, it looked like he just did like a hammer fist with a gun or something. But what a horrible video to play, dude.
Yeah, this is violence, man.
This is like, okay, who wants to work in executive protection?
This isn't EP. This is cops, bro.
this is the four guys. You're the, yeah. So, what's interesting is this. Do you know the name Anthony Smith?
No.
MMA fighter. So he's one of the top, top MMA fighters in UFC. Mm-hmm. And he had some junkie broke into his house, home invasion.
Oh yeah.
He was home. Anthony Smith is like a light heavyweight, fights at 195 area. And this guy was apparently 160. I had him on my podcast, and he said it was the hardest fight he's ever had. Now this guy's had 50 fights.
Yeah, he's an OG in the game. He's been fighting different that time as we see the bombs.
But he's also 35 pounds and bigger than the guy, and a professional fighter. And the guy wasn't armed. He said it was the most tired I ever was. I couldn't control him. I was on the ground. I never been scared. It was never been this hard. And I dissect that but what I talk about is like, I'm not going, well, you should have done the Americano here, or why didn't you go cross-side, or how come you didn't do an ankle lock? And that's where people make the mistake, is they go, well, what technique would have everything that happened in this video has to do with choosing safety. And it starts minutes before this guy walks in the room, or tries to leave the room.
Yeah.
Like this guy, like right away, first of all, like you didn't pat the guy down. Holy shit. Number two, the cop, the guy that slams the door, like that's big dick energy, right?
Yeah, you better have a big dick if you swing in that thing.
And so why you pause it right here? So like why this guy doesn't flinch at all is because it hasn't occurred to him. It hasn't occurred to the guy in the white here that there's going to be violence.
Right.
And so if you don't consider that there's going to be violence, the readiness quotient isn't activated.
Right.
Right. So, when you go to a gas station, like, are you situationally aware at every gas station? Or
I am, bro. I see gas stations as watering holes. I get out of the car at a gas station as a 240-pound. Like, I see gas stations as watering holes on the African savannah, right? Because I get these videos. So like 80% of them are at gas stations, right? So when I go to fuel up my truck, bro, I step out the truck and I'm like,
right.
Like I'm like the hardest. I'm smiling, but I'm 100% prepared and realize that's a traditional space that's active,
Yeah. And so what I mean by that is, so this is the true safety model. Yeah. I've driven up to gas stations where I don't like the two cars parked in the front, and then the people inside. I don't like the location. I don't like the time of the day. And so I'll move to another location, right? So it's D1, choose safety. So here, and again, this is another video that really starts at D2, but there's already hostilities in place. Because if the guy in the white, like, he slams the door with attitude, right? Yeah. He's like slamming the door, which means there was some verbal assaultive language before that, whatever that is. That's why I mean, we've got to study the timeline of violence, because what you realize, if violence loves speed, and this goes down really fast. And I always ask the question, guys, if you're watching this video with us, and you're asking, well, how the hell would I prepare for that? The answer isn't, I got to study gun disarms, because you will not do a gun disarm if you don't even know that a gun is going to be pulled. Yeah. Right. You can't deploy a complex motor skill if you're so far like behind the 8 ball, which this guy is. He doesn't even fucking flinch.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised the guy's like he hit the guy with the gun and shot him, didn't put the gun on a battery. This guy looks like this is not his first rodeo. Yep.
Yep. And he knew his first 2 moves. Like, he knew he was going here and here. If you see how fluid he's like, bop, next. And then he knows he's going to have to fight for the rest of it. And he's able to achieve a higher level of violence.
It's crazy. Yeah. Horrible video to play. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no, I got a couple more. I think on your point too, you're not going to employ some sophisticated swan dance move, more than likely. I think really the saving grace on a lot of this is achieving a higher level of violence as quickly as you can. Like, you can see the other 2 guys just run out of the room and leave these 3 in here by themselves. The only guy who complicated the battle space for this guy were the guys that charged. Right. We got my man hiding behind the desk. This guy in the blue chose violence. Right. And he complicated the game a little bit. If my guy in the blue and my guy hiding behind the desk over here right now, they would have came at the same time, they may have been alive. Right.
Well, this is the value of the stuff. And here's the thing, is like, you've done gun disarms before, right?
Yeah.
Training. Mm-hmm. But they were almost always, and I haven't seen all your training, but I've been around long enough. They're almost always static.
Oh yeah.
Gun here, maybe draw and come out. And so it's always like, it's almost like tactical tennis. You serve, I serve, we're back and forth, we're powering, we're moving. Look at the proximity and the angles and movement, and everyone watching this, like this video, like we've done drills like this where you're charging. We do in our training a lot of active shooter drills, and they're all charging a threat from 8, 10, 11 feet out.
Right.
And so it's complicated, but it's a choiceless choice. I've got to charge the threat. What I said earlier, in this case here, there is an escape route. But if you choose violence, here's the thing: is if you've never, and this was that the German attack that happened last week in Mannheim. When we dissected that whole thing, there were 8 or 9 police officers, all armed, standing around a guy who had already stabbed multiple people, murdered a cop before he got shot.
Right.
Everyone saw him. Nobody drew a gun. Then when one guy drew a gun, people started drawing the gun. So fear is contagious, but so is courage. Right. So I explained the most important thing is, how do you manage your fear in a holy shit moment? And then you could look at that. And if I asked a simple question, had these guys done in their knife versus gun training at the department, had they ever done crazy lunatic running around slashing people drills? And the answer is no.
Right.
But had they done 21-foot Tooler drills?
Yeah. We start off like this, and
then I run at you and you get offline. Had they done, static knife disarms? Yeah, but they never done, and I call it the 3 R's of scenario training. It must be realistic. It must be rigorous at some point. You start, crawl, walk, run, and it must be relevant.
Right. Yeah.
Realistic and relevant aren't necessarily the same. The nuances are very important. How many times in the last few years have we seen somebody take a knife and butcher a bunch of people in a crowded area? Fucking, like, every week or every month, that's happening somewhere.
Right.
But if I went to all of the police agencies and security departments, I saw we went over one in Hong Kong. It was almost like, you ever see you ever watch The Walking Dead?
No, not really, but I know
the episodes. The zombies are like this.
Those are the good zombies.
So,
what's that?
Remember Generation Z?
Those are the zombies I'm afraid of.
Right. So I always make this reference. I go, if I'm fighting a zombie, I want it to be a Walking Dead zombie, because at least I can go and fucking run. The Generation Z zombies are like, they're on you. And this guy in a mall in Hong Kong starts murdering people with a knife. And I get emotional when I watch any violence for the first time. And I tell people, the reason my system has so many behavioral components, emotional, psychological, physical, neurobiological, is because I am afraid of violence. I'm so afraid, I abhor it, that I practice it so that I have a fucking option. Right. God forbid something happens. If I need to be the courageous bystander, I'm not going, hey, Google, or hey, Siri, how do I charge I've thought it through, I've trained it. Am I going to live or die? I have the option to choose courage and to choose violence because I practice it.
And just to come alongside you on that,
please.
I'm the same way. Like, people are like, oh, you're in the gym, you're at the mats, you're at the range because you think it's cool, because you're so, no, bro.
Who talks like that, dude?
The internet people. Like, listen, the reason I'm training so much, is because I know that there's so much chance. Like, the best fighters don't always win. On the scale of like 1 to 10 in terms of juggernauts out there, I'm like a 5.5. Like, I'm above average. But like, there are monsters out there, and some 106-pound cat could put a pencil in my ear at a freaking gas station if I don't see him. Your grandma could stab me in the chest because I didn't think she was a threat. Like, anyone can kill you. So I am hyper aware of the expense, how expensive it can be. Super worried about failing people who pay me and count on me and see me as such, and hyper aware of how many guys that were better than me didn't make it home through violence when I was baptized in it many years ago. So it's not about it's literally about I'm aware of my deficiencies, and until the fight starts, I'm doing everything I can to smooth those edges off for the chance that I could, at least if I lose, I did everything I could to try to be the best I could with what I have. Hyper aware, hate violence, allow myself to be afraid of it with a healthy, respectful fear and reverence for it, and don't want to fail during the game of my life at some point, which, has happened can continue.
I love that. I love that. Well said, man. Well said. And that's what it is. There's too much macho energy in our industry, and it's because you can leverage fear. I always talk about how do you turn fear into fuel,
baby.
And so because fear, the fear spike is the energetic radar blip. So let's say you're in charge of air safety, you're going to get a radar blip, and you go, "Is that a flock of seagulls or is that a fucking missile?" Right. And you're going to get an adrenaline dump, and then you've got to use intuition and training and software to figure it out. Well, it's the same thing. Our software here is our mindset and our knowledge of this neuroscience, and I will tell people this. You said a very powerful line, but it was not hidden. It was overt. But inside that last rant, and that is, I'm aware of my deficiencies. Yep. So we have another lecture I do. Mm-hmm. One is our own no fear vertical, but within that I talk about blind spots, and I say, and I have a slide. The heading of the slide is no blind spots, but it's spelled KNOW. What if you know what your blind spots are?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. You got to know that you have blind spots, and you got to know that blind spots have blind spots. Like, you got to know that you're like always going to have these blind spots, man.
Right. And so what you do is you choose safety. There's a literal blind spot, with our vision in our peripheral, right? So that, if you're not careful, we've all almost cut somebody off driving because the car was just hanging out in our blind spot. But if you know you have a blind spot, you choose safety, you speed up, you slow down, you check the mirror, you do a quick peek. So when we know what our blind spots are, then it automatically makes us safer. So understanding those deficiencies and what we want to build is, of course, those capability gaps. And the fastest way to do that, gang, everyone listening, is you take a video, and let's say this last video that we showed, let's say everyone listening to this has done gun disarms. Mm-hmm. You'd realize that this guy who, was at this angle, pulled his gun out like this. Yeah. You don't see it till he's here. And it's like, right? So you go, well, I've never done a gun disarm with that and one movement. So you start doing that. And then you analyze, what are the pre-contact cues? And then you go back in time. This is the timeline of violence, and go, what did I miss in D1 that set me up? Because D2, detect and avoid, as D1 is detect and avoid, D2 is diffuse and de-escalate. D2 is my verbal strategies, my verbal phrasing to control this guy's movement. How do I control his behavior? If I slam the door and I go, where the fuck do you think you're going? Right? That's escalating things. If I stop and I go, hey, I start a conversation that's congruent with the scenario. But you can see mistakes made in D1, D2. So now D3 pops, and you don't have a chance in that case. And the only chance you do have is if you manage the fear, and you've used, this is what I tell everyone every week, we study these videos, because when I show you a video, I want to know how fast you can come up with training drills that are realistic, relevant, rigorous, so that we can practice them. So we create, there's a sports psychology term called metacognition, a big fancy word for how do we think about how we think. Right. And so if I've done 0 reps, and then all of a sudden I got a guy spinning and contact shooting me, I've got to go from 0 reps to holy shit level of spontaneous improvisation, versus if I've done a bunch of reps for that, my brain recalibrates faster. It's not a guarantee, but I'm back in the fight.
Right. I love it, man. Good stuff. Yo, this has been awesome. I know me and you could kick this thing back and forth forever. Real quick, yes. About your camp, real quick, you guys. So Tony, he is one of our elite instructors in the Civilian Protector Project. We have a lot of stuff that we've done with him over the years at symposiums and things like that. There's more there that you guys can check out. But 1, he's got a live event coming up. And 2, he also is offering in-depth digital training, a lot like what we're talking about here and what you've gotten to dip the pinky in here. So going ahead, man, and let people know like how they can join you, how they can continue down these rabbit holes with you. I think there's just been so much value here.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. And I appreciate you sharing my life's work. I've been at it for over 40 years with your audience. There's a lot of people in the tactical community that are of the scarcity mindset, ego politics that don't. So I always am grateful and thankful to you. You're one of the good guys who goes, hey, let's share the knowledge, make people safer. At the end of the day, if you start training with Byron and there's 50 other companies you could train with, he might be a Prius and you like a Prius, and this other guy, sorry, man, that was a joke. Like, what? I'm a Prius. What? Right. Meaning there's a lot of good weapon systems.
Right.
You might go Staccato is more comfortable in my hand than a Glock. I like a Sig, but they're all the premier elite ones are good. You got to find the right one. And so, there are other people teaching good stuff in the hand-to-hand space, psychology space, like me or like you, they are. And think of us as like a high-end car or a high-end pistol where you go, I like the way Blauer swears and I like the way he gets fucking fired up. Some of you might, well, I get messages all the time. I like your message, but you swear too much. Well, I know they're going to fucking hate my digital content.
Different tribe. Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah.
So, I'm of course heavily shadow banned on most of the platforms like Instagram and Facebook. You know nothing about that, of course. But
if you ain't got a parental advisory sticker and you ain't shadow banned, you ain't even black. That's right. Like you may not be a patriot. I don't know. I mean, not good.
What are you doing? I dig that. So like all of if you just go to Blauer Training, my last name, BlauerTraining, .com, ByronRodgers.com, I think it is. How come I don't even know my website? Google Tony Blauer. I got a bunch of websites, but we've got training for law enforcement, military, executive protection. We got for the general public, whatever you got. We've got training gear for scenario training. I've got our flagship event is coming up. This will, of course, date this because it'll be in your library. But this year, 2024, we're back in Las Vegas, July 27th and 28th. And don't think Vegas in July. We're in an air-conditioned hotel. Don't worry. But it's an amazing event to get to, especially if you're sitting on the fence or you've never trained with us or you want to do a taste. It's affordable, and who doesn't want to go to Vegas for a weekend? We also have, like, if you just go to the website, we'll share the link. I guess you've got. I know my team sent it to you, but we've got online digital live. We've got online digital. Like where it's just digital learning, but live like this as well. So we have something for everybody. And it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter if you're tier 1 or beginner. It doesn't matter if you're doing jiu-jitsu or Krav Maga. I'm not trying to change any of that. I'm trying to insert the fear, the scenario, the mind speed. And what that does is it just augments and enhances your survivability.
It amplifies those things. It amplifies your weapon implementation and your tactics and your martial art execution.
I like it.
Outstanding.
When's your event coming up, man?
Yeah, no, we've got this year, we've got the EP Expo for executive protection professionals or people who want to get into the industry. That's going to be popping, I want to say August 24th and 25th at Castellas Training Facility. 60,000+ square foot warehouse. We got to go in there, hard skills one day, shoot houses, indoor range, a lot of open space, all hard skills, and maybe some certs too. We're going to do some medical stuff. And then the second day we're in the big room and it's all resume row, 20 to as many. We have about 20 companies right now that are showing up that guys are going to be able to meet, do interviews, drop resumes. We have a professional photo booth with a professional photographer that's going to be there. 70 lead instructors that are going to be there having conversations led by those in the crowd, so it's going to be good. And then we're going to throw a mansion party the last night, and I'm going to spend all the money I can from the signups on the biggest mansion party we have. You know what I'm saying? So the networking's going to be off the hook. That's supported by our digital learning platform. So everyone's going to have everyone's contact information. So I'm stoked. EP expert.
Badass. I know a bunch of your lead instructors. You had like tier 1 talent coming to that.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's an honor that, folks like you and them have been willing to join forces with me over the years. It's a very encouraging thing to me when I hit up guys that are like legends in our space. I'm like I said, you're citing work you did the year I was born, so when I can, when you're like, yeah, we can do some stuff, we can party.
Right.
Man. So thank you.
I appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you too. More to come. We're going to keep kicking it back and forth. And this episode's power packed. You guys haven't, go find his stuff. And it's an honor. Thank you.
Boom. Thank you, man. Stay safe.
Boom. When it comes to the technology you use to protect your home, there's nothing better than Deep Sentinel, AI-driven, human-monitored technology that will keep you and your family safe for the same price you're paying for whatever Ring doorbell system you have. Check out Deep Sentinel. It's such an honor to join forces with these guys. They should be in every single house in the world. Get real-time Overwatch for you and your loved one. And for 10% off, depending on when you're watching this, don't forget to use code Byron at checkout. Boom! Quick shout out to our sponsor, Staccato, my first pistol sponsor. I've been sponsored by a lot of companies, right, over the years. But when it comes to pistol, that's my bread and butter. Pistol is something I believe in. I'm a competitive shooter. We're shooting anywhere from, 800 rounds a month type of thing, right? So Staccato, being what I believe, is one of, if not the most complete handguns you can put in your hand. It's got every component that a handgun could have, should have. They're actually extremely dependable now that they've made some changes, and these things are straight up tack drivers. If you're looking for a pistol that will do as much of the work for you as a piece of hardware can, obviously you have to have the marksmanship and all the different things, but different guns perform at different levels. And I want to say that Staccato is one of, by far, for sure, take it from a competitive shooter, we're shooting the highest volumes of rounds constantly right now. Not used to have a background guy, but like right now, when you go shoot, you're going to see certain brands. Staccato is one of, if not the highest performing firearm that is both CCW, duty ready, and also competitive ready. So I want to give them a shout out. If you guys are looking for a good handgun to build your skills on top of, go check out Staccato. Much love and respect. Yo, if you enjoyed that episode and you like learning things like that, I want to encourage you to go to Protector Nation, build a profile, get in the Civilian Protector Project. This is where you can learn from these guys, live Zoom calls. You can see the full modules that you just watched, and you can become part of a community. It's the first social media platform for protectors where we can get to know each other, we can network, we can learn together. We do live Zoom calls with different SMEs every single month. There's so much packed in there. I'm in there. It's an honor, it's a privilege. Looking forward to working together to make the world a safer place by helping good people to become more willing, capable, and prepared. Protector Nation, Civilian Protector Project, let's go.